Welcome to XXIM YouTube channel. In this video, Ankit is going to have a wonderful and thoughtful conversation with the one and only Kaspa Hypeman, aka Wolfie.
I want to say, I mine 10 Bitcoins. What have you done with your life?
If you care about exchange listings and stablecoins, then this interview is definitely for you.
Some of these exchanges would tell me like, yeah, $120,000 listing fee, and then we need $100,000 in tokens to do a giveaway.
Along with the ones that are going to be listing Kaspa.
CZ himself plus Binance on Twitter posted 3 real hints about Kaspa. Binance has been hammering us with tech questions for the last 6 weeks, probably. Now, Coinbase, we mentioned Coinbase. I can tell you about Coinbase. She told me they know of Kaspa and she's pushing for it.
And a bonus from Wolfie.
What is your price prediction of Kaspa by 2030? Welcome to XXIM Podcast, your home of decentralization. Today, I'm here with Kaspa Hypeman Wolfie. Welcome, Wolfie.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks for the invite. It's always flattering to when somebody else wants you to be on the screen with them. So I appreciate that. And yeah, it's great to catch up with you. I know a few other people that you've done shows with. And yeah, you have a real good screen presence, real smooth character. So yeah, this should be great.
Well, appreciate it, Wolfie. This is the first time we're actually chatting and first time we're meeting. So I'm looking forward to our discussion. But again, appreciate for you being, making time for coming on the show. So let's kick off with a very simple one, Wolfie. What's your crypto journey? So let's go through a quick crypto journey before we talk about the exciting stuff about Kaspa and the future of Kaspa.
Sure. So anybody who watches or has listened to podcasts, I hate to sound like a broken record because I've told this story more than once, but I'll tell you the story.
Please, yeah.
So I've always been a geek. My first computer I got in 1981. It had 2 big 5 1/4 floppy drives, no hard drive,
right.
So I never went to really too much school in general. And I didn't, I'm not a wizard. I never created anything, but over the decades, I got this natural skill of being able to just put things together when something didn't work, make things work. And if something breaks, I can fix it without the book. So that was me. And, being that like decades of computer geek, I somehow heard about, World of Warcraft online gaming in 2000.
Okay.
And then some kid in the game in around 2011 told me, like, hey, man, when you're done playing the game at the end of the night, when you shut off the game, are you mining Bitcoin with your video card?
Right.
I'm like, Bitcoin, what the hell is that? And he's like, it's like Warcraft Gold, but you can send it to anybody outside the game, anyone on the internet.
Right.
I'm like, that sounds kind of cool. How do you do it? And he goes,
when was this? 2008? Did you say 2009?
2011. Yeah.
Right.
I think. And I started playing Warcraft, and then after a few years, some kid told me like, "Hey, you should mine Bitcoin." So actually, I brought a prop. I have show and tell prop, so I still have a few of my GPUs from 2000. Yeah. So what I want to do is, I always want to. Eventually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this framed, and I want it to say on the top like a meme. I want to say, "Yeah, I mine 10 Bitcoins. What have you done with your life?" Because this, I had a 4 video card rig. I was getting 1 Bitcoin every 5 days, and Bitcoin was $7, $7.
2011, right? Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, more people heard about it, maybe everywhere or maybe on World of Warcraft. But the difficulty went up, and then the pay went down, and all of a sudden, I was getting like half a Bitcoin in 10 days. So I realized I am losing money. I'm losing $4 a week on electric. I better shut this thing off. So I shut it off. You know what I mean?
Boy.
So
I
didn't understand the technology. I just got, I hacked up a wallet going and a miner and a little rig with four video cards. And so I didn't realize how magic it was and what was special about it. I just knew these little credits were coming in. And so then I shut it, and I had a link on my browser bar to the Bitcoin price chart. Mm-hmm. And I take a peek every 6 months or something. Yeah. And then in 2014, I needed money for rent, and I was just poking around. And I clicked, and I saw Bitcoin's $100, and I go, wait a minute, I have some of those things somewhere. And I tracked it down on an old hard drive. I found a little pile of Bitcoins that I had, and I sold them all for $100 each. And I paid rent for a couple months, and then I was happy.
Oh, no.
And a few years later, I took another peek in 2017, and it was $2,000. And I go, all right, I got to get in this deal, man. This is not a fad. This is not going out of style, you know? So fortunately for me, like I had mentioned, I didn't do anything really the right way or the school way. You know, the regular people path was not for me ever. But I had this from being on the wrong side of the path, the do it yourself in the jungle style of life. I had this little street hunch instinct thing. Yeah. And it told me the second I saw Bitcoin 2000, and I knew it. Right. Last time I was paying attention, it was really $7 and then $100. I realized this thing stretched already like a tree. It's like up, you know. And I didn't have the means to get on the top of the tree as big as it was, and to take me where I wanted to go, stretching more. So I realized I have to find some acorns at the bottom that nobody knows about yet, and but not just any acorns, ones that are also going to stretch, you know? Yeah. So I started my altcoin journey, and I was fortunate in the very beginning of that journey. I found Verge currency, which was not really a breakthrough currency, but it taught me a lot of things, and it had set me up pretty well to be ready for when I saw Kaspa, that I knew that was the winner, you know? Right. It was, you know, it taught me about fair launch. That was important. Proof of work was still important, not only from knowing from Bitcoin, but to stick with the proof of work coins were legit and no company. And what I had seen from the beginning days up and through into the early 2020s was almost everything was like a copy of Bitcoin, just like with the dials changed, you know, like speeding up the block time, like 10 or 20x, and adding stealth addresses. It's like a car, you know, you take a Camaro or something, and then, you know, you put on cool exhaust, you put on cool wheels, you put on tinted windows, but it's just a Camaro. It's not really a special car. It's just an fun car, you know? And that's what the projects I saw were, just bolt-on changes to Bitcoin, but they weren't really breakthroughs, the next real thing in the technology, you know? Then when I found Kaspa, then I saw something that was a leap of tech. Like, it was the new thing to me. Yeah.
So I wanted to move to Kaspa, but just quickly, so do you remember how many Bitcoins actually you mined?
Yeah. So I had 40 Bitcoins. Yes. And they went to $4,000. Right. $4,000. Yeah. So, yeah. So I got 40. So yeah, I didn't money on electric, so that was at least cool. But really, the thing that was the most valuable of it was the seed planting in my mind. Yes. To have the experience to know that when I saw it was 2000, that I knew that I had to start up again. You know? Yeah.
And I think such a interesting point, and perhaps one of the interesting, important points you highlighted there. You know, a lot of people that get into mining, especially, are perhaps not even aware of you know, what the underlying technology is. They just think about the money, and they think they can make some cash out of it, or create some, you know, just passive income. And that's completely fine. I think a lot of people I've met over the years actually, you know, come from that background, right? They don't come from the school background, as you mentioned. And I think I love it, because they have the weirdest but yet very interesting stories to hear from them, right? How they got in. So 40 Bitcoins, you ended up selling all of them. You went through some other cryptos. Verge is one we mentioned. And then somehow through that old journey, you ended up with Kaspa. So let's get into Kaspa. So when and how you found Kaspa?
Yes. So when was it was November 25th, 2021, when the main network was 2 weeks old. So it had been on for 2 weeks. And a mining buddy named Jimbo, who's one of our mods for years and years, He's a nice guy from Georgia. He and I met on one other altcoin project, like a privacy coin years back, like 2018.
Okay.
And we re-met back up and we got along well, just sharing like configurations, do this, do that. Yeah. Where do you think this thing's going? And so he would always send me these altcoins, like, look at this one. This one's proof of stake and it's hybrid and blah, blah, blah. And most of them all went to zero and died in 2 weeks, you know? Yeah. So he sent me this one, and he has that Southern accent. I'm pretty famous. People who know me know my accent. So he goes, Wolfie, I found this coin. Now this is a bunch of sharp guys. They're trying to do something a little different here. He links me the kgi.kaspad.net where you can see the blocks going by, you know, and my 5 years in a row, every single day from 2017, before the sun comes up, I'm on the screen, checking CoinMarketCap, looking at my coins, looking at the chats, looking at everything, checking my miners, checking my machines, talking to everybody, checking Twitter, you know. So I've seen it all, and I've got my hunches are pretty dialed in now. I see these multiple blocks going by, and my street instinct tells me the first thing it tells me, dude, this is a scam, bro. This is some guy in a basement smoking filterless cigarettes. And he figured out how to like hot rod like Bitcoin general mining software and make all the orphans cling in and they all count somehow. And the network's going to split off in a week and no one's going to be able to fix it and it's going to go to zero. Right. That was how that whole story went through my stomach in like 1.5 seconds. And then Mr. Jimbo tells me, apparently, the founders quoted, he cited in the ETH white paper. He's in the Ethereum white paper.
Yeah, Ethereum white paper, yeah.
Okay. Well, if anybody could make something like this structure actually work, it would be a guy like that, you know? Yeah. So I learned about the founder, Mr. Jonathan Sompolinski, who's a wizard. And then I was like, all right, well, man, you know, maybe I should start mining this. So I started mining with some CPUs, you know, some Ryzen nice CPUs I had around. I had been a mod. I had been like a Telegram mod in Verge currencies chat for like 5 years. And then some other altcoins that I had small positions in that I had mined and stuff. So when I found these guys, and I started talking to Michael Sutton, the lead developer, and these guys were like, it was unbelievable to me because up until then, the developers were, you know, the projects I knew, it was like a one-man show. It's like the founder was the developer, and it was he thought of it, he picked the theme, he wrote the thing, he started the chain, and he was there, like whatever. So to find these gracious creatures, it's not an insult that I mean it as an insult, but to me, it was so incredible to find people who had these minds that could make this crazy, great stuff. And they didn't even know how great it was, you know? I tell people it was like I found the Beatles in the forest singing and they didn't know other people liked music. You know what I mean? They have this great thing. And like, so I realized like, all right, crypto Twitter and Telegram is yo-yo land. They're nice yo-yos. They're money yo-yos, but it's yo-yo. Yeah. So I have to insert myself as a little buffer in between these majestic creatures and the whole rest of the world that coins are interesting. Right. Just a little buffer, you know, and ask them questions in a manner that they can, you know, be dealing with and tell me the answer, and I'll convert the answer into crowd language for them. You know, so I volunteered as a mod for the channel of Telegram and, you know, showed them my screenshots of work history, volunteering for other projects, and I got that job. And then things went along nicely, and after about 6 months, a kid popped up from Germany. He must have been maybe 25 or 30-year-old kid, a sharp guy. And he got us on like the first 2 little exchanges. Before that, it was all peer-to-peer trading. It was like OTC, like, you know, someone puts a message, oh, like 1 million coins for sale for $200. And then you message the guy and you send him some whatever. And then he sends you the coins, hopefully. So anyway, this guy, Freshman, got us on a couple of exchanges, just very, very starter kit beginning exchanges. I think they're both out of business now. But anyway, and then he kind of disappeared. He was in a lot of projects. He helped a lot of ones, and he So I go, well, I've been in business for a long time, family businesses, and it's just talking. An exchange is just a business. I mean, how hard can it be to talk to a business and see what they want to do business? Let's try that. So I began to volunteer.
I see.
As business development guy.
I see. So from finding Kaspa in November 2021, you got into the Telegram groups, started to moderating it. The guys obviously gave you, hey, you can start to moderate it. Who was the moderator at that time? So who you were talking to that allowed you to be moderator?
So this is funny. So there was a guy, the owner of the original Telegram channel was his name. His screen name was Mr. Solomon. And the project pretty much originated in Israel. So I figured this was like a 50-year-old guy, maybe a hat and a beard, like a serious guy, like Mr. Solomon's running the show. Then I come to find out months later that he's 18. He's 18. He lives across. Yeah, I think he's neighbors with Yoni. So that's
really
funny.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You're talking to Mr. Solomon. And he's like, okay, well, I like you, Wolfie. You can come and moderate along with me. So I'm the owner. You can start to moderate. So that's the story. Sure. It didn't go to any other developers. They weren't involved.
I think I asked him because he was the owner first. Right. I found that might have been the first or the second day. The day after I came back and I saw the miners were running and, hey, this thing's cool. And then he must have asked Mr. Y, Yoni, or Sutton, hey, this guy says he has experience. Should we let him be a mod? And they said yes. So then I got in that way. And Discord was big in those days too. A lot of the action, really, the development action and tracking software bugs and stuff.
So you got as a mod, and then you saw this German guy just popped up, got Kaspa across 2 different exchanges, centralized exchanges, and you're like, well, sure, I can do it too. So that's how your journey started to be the business development manager or the director, whatever the title is you use, sure. Official, unofficial. So that's the sort of journey into your current role.
Yeah. So it's funny. So people will know, I'm even these days a little hesitant to say director of business development because in reality, there's no, it's decentralized. There's no organization technically to grant titles to anybody, really.
Exactly. Who's going to grant you anything? Yeah, right.
The reason why that title exists, and it is, I don't hesitate to tell people it's self-proclaimed,
Of
but
course.
I would get, mostly Asian exchanges, mid teens, 20s, 30s, the way it would work would be, somebody would get an attention of a listing guy at some exchange and put me in a room with them in Telegram, and I'd be like, hey, I'm Wolfie. I do business development for Kaspa or whatever. And they would say, is there any C-level? Can you put C-level in the room? That was always their thing.
Right.
So I'm like, buddy, are you from the crypto industry or are you from something else? Because there's not supposed to be any C in crypto. The C is for crypto. It's not for corporation. They're looking for
executives. Yeah. They're looking for.
Yeah. And so I got sick of explaining how I'm the man. So I just made that director business so they would feel like they already had the guy who they really were supposed to talk to. And it worked.
Yeah.
So some people don't like that because they're like, hey, how come he gets to be director? Why can we decentralize the business development? And of course, the answer is anybody can do it. I spend my time and money doing it because it's fun and it helps my daughter's Kaspa bag. And then mine gets to go along for the ride. And anybody else who has Kaspa, they get to go along for the ride too.
Of course. I mean, such a valid point, right? I think, yes, there are no titles in decentralization and there shouldn't be. But at the same time, the problem is real. These exchanges they wouldn't talk to randoms. They want to go through a proper channel, right? Because they're used to it, right? That's how I think crypto has evolved to. There are certain roles and certain titles and you talk to them, right? And I see the challenge perhaps you had at the time and still exists to the day, right? It hasn't just disappeared. And oftentimes not many people perhaps understand the process of how to list on the centralized exchange itself. And I want to get into it, like the whole process that you have gone through.
I even got a little bratty on when somebody was mentioning how come it can't be decentralized. I said, it can. You can be director of the directors. You can name yourself director of the directors of business development, but I won't take direction from you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, exactly. But let's move on to the listing parts. We already got into it anyways. Who is this first exchange you ended up talking to?
So actually, I think I began really getting my feet wet on MEXC, MEXC.
Yeah.
So Freshman stuck around and he helped orchestrate, and I watched him in the room. I was in the Telegram room, and and we had our developers and they had theirs, and even Sutton was helping at that point. And so I watched and I saw, okay, this is how it goes down. They tell you the terms like a regular business deal, and then you can counter, or if they're reasonable, you know, and you try to put together something and then start doing the work and getting the technology on their platform. And then once it's close to ready, the small ones and the medium ones want to have co-marketing, and they want to plan an announcement and a listing date. And then the bigger ones, the higher you get towards the top of the ladder, they don't tell you anything, which we'll get to that, believe me. But yeah. And then after MEXC, then Freshmen seemed to disappear. And I think I got lots of medium, you know, top 50s going. And then, you know, Gate and KuCoin were some bigger ones. And then I think Big Get came later on. Yeah. And then Kraken was a good one. I got the Kraken one going. That was great.
That's amazing. I think these are some, you know, I think some of them are tier one, you know, perhaps the lower tier ones, but then tier ones, and the rest of them are definitely tier two. So let's get into it. So what, perhaps there's a lot of misinformation out there, what it means to be on exchanges. So what are the, how can we debunk some of the things that perhaps you've seen that, you know, people on the internet, on the X talk about, right? Based on my experience, right, exchanges are central entities, right? Centralized entities run by a board of directors. They have CEOs, they have title, and they are money-driven organizations, right? They're not there for charity, right? To do the goodwill for the people. So they're driven by money. So what were the things that let's talk about MEXC. What were they wanting out of Kaspa?
So they wanted liquidity to start the trading books going. So I think we had to lend them 50,000 USDT, half Kaspa coins and half USDT. So 50,000 total, not too bad, you know. And yeah,
50,000 USDT. So they wanted you to convert Kaspa into USDT along with Kaspa as a liquidity.
Yeah, they wanted both sides of the order book.
Order book, yeah, both sides.
Yeah, both sides, so they could set the books and just have trading be tight, you know.
Right. Interesting. Why did they want USDT? Because Kaspa, of course, they don't have liquidity. USDT is more, they should have USDT. They can go get USDT. It's not that they can't, you know, they can't achieve any other way.
Yeah. So I would imagine like they want if they want it. If all the Kaspa gets sold and it's a dump, they don't want all the USDT that all the coins turned into, all the USDT that went away from all the coins being sold.
I see. Maybe it's just acted as a fee, maybe because, you know, typically exchanges ask.
They want both sides of the books. So when people buy Kaspa, they want to have Kaspa that's going to it. And when people sell Kaspa, they want USDT to take the sold Kaspa.
Sure.
Pay. They want to be able to buy more Kaspa, and they want to be able to give Kaspa when people put their own USDT.
Okay.
Yeah, so like that.
And you use a term called lending. You lent to them. What are that? Why would they? So they were borrowing those Kaspa and USDT, and then they returned it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it was a little unusual. So every one thing is there's no real rule book. There's no like way the deal has to go down. They're all different. It's just like dating or something. Some people want you to take them to dinner. Some people want to go on vacation. And some people just want to come to your house right away. You know, like anything can happen. You know, but the more higher up you go up the ladder, the more pickier they get. Generally speaking. there's these really, this is a saying that I heard earlier in the year, and it's great. It says, there's at least one trait that all successful people have is a keen sense of reality. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty good. Like, just knowing what's really actually going on is important. People sometimes, and what I'm getting at is, some of these exchanges would tell me like, yeah, $120,000 listing fee. And then we need $100,000 in tokens to do a giveaway. And then I look up who they are on CoinMarketCap and I'm like, dude, you're number 179 exchange on CoinMarketCap. We got on Kraken for free and you're 179 and you think I'm paying you 120 grand. Did you bump your head? Like, are you sniffing airplane glue? Like, what's going on over there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah. So some of the lower ones are not in reality, and they think they can just make a business model on charging listing fees. If it's a terrible, like, scam token thing or something, maybe they can just pay. But, for us, it's not in the cards.
No. And I think it's something we brought up in the past as well. And I think it's worth discussing. Tier 2, tier 3 exchanges, like there's, with money, you can do anything, right? With the crypto exchanges, right?
Yeah.
Either it's money or liquidity or volume, right? Whatever you want to call it, liquidity/volume, right? So tier 2, tier 3 exchanges will charge you anywhere between 20,000 to 50K for a listing, even if it's a shit coin, right? As you mentioned. Tier 2 and upwards, you're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions, right? I know Binance charges anywhere between 2 to 4 million, I believe, for listings.
I think that's an old figure.
Maybe, yeah, it's an old figure.
And it didn't go down.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand they are in this to make money, right? Exchange. They are not there to, as I said, provide some, public service. They're not doing public service, and they make a lot of money. So, I think it's important to people to remember that constantly that it is hard to get into doing a deal, because deal is what you guys do, right? What you were doing with the exchange. So that's very cool. What other exchanges do you remember? So Kraken you mentioned. So MEXC we talked about. What were the terms for Kraken, if you happen to remember?
So Kraken was super cool. I had to be NDA'd up, and signing an NDA. So that one was very strict. And so I did that. And they also wanted it.
Sorry, Wolfie, that's very cool. But NDA as an entity, as an individual, because you're sort of signing a liability, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I had to say as myself.
You're self-proclaimed, right? So you don't have a title.
So I'm not signing on the behalf of Kaspa. I'm signing that me as a person, if they bring me into a room with their business people and their technical people, that I'm not going to say like, hey, I'm in a room with Kraken and here's the name of the guy and this is what he's working on, and start tweeting about it.
Yeah.
That nor any, trade secrets. I don't know too much about their infrastructure, but if I did, like, I wouldn't tell anybody. Publicize it. Yeah.
Right.
So they were very strict. They had NDAs for everybody that assisted me and my boys. I have some really great, integration guys, Rob, coder of stuff, and Super Typo, my 3 integration support developer guys. So these guys will spend countless hours and hours and days and weeks and months and years I can talk about this. We've been working with Binance. Binance, that's a big one, right? Okay, we had Binance ready with integration, meaning they could support their users having a Kaspa wallet address before 2 Christmases ago.
Right, so 2023.
Yeah. So we've been helping them and keep current with the software going. They still haven't activated spot trading. We have no real choice but to continue to assist. And they've been working on the Rust version. When we shifted gears from the 1 block per second to the new one, they had to redo everything, so we're assisting them with that, and they have a pretty good grip on it. Now, when I had mentioned before, is like when you get, that's pretty much the top of the ladder. Some people would say Coinbase, some people would say Binance, whatever. They're in different flavors of the same tippy top of the tree of fruit, you know. So these guys won't tell you anything about when, the famous 3-letter cat question of Twitter, WEN, when, meow, when. They're not going to tell you, you know. They don't tell me. Now what happens with things like Fartcoin or SPX, or if it's a token and they make, you know, 2 quadrillion of them out of thin air in 20 seconds on a smart contract, and they want to give 15% to Binance to list the next day, then those guys know probably what's going to happen. So there's different categories for different types of crypto. So smart contract, like tokens with a contract address, when they only have to paste in the logo, paste in the contract address, then it's a nothing burger of you know. Then you give them 10 or 15% of the entire supply, and you tell them the contract address and the logo, and you sign something that you're not going to rug that much. And then before they do, and then then that's it. It's not that hard. But when you have a breakthrough L1 that's very complex, and there's only 5 people in the whole world that know how it actually works, then they're less inclined, and you have no foundation wallet. That's really a big point. Yeah. So we have to get by on good looks of the block tag and, you know, likes and huge community. Or when Kraken announced that they were listing Kaspa, it was their biggest tweet of all time, 1.3 million views. So, you know, that shows the power of the community. There's a lot of people in crypto that understand that Kaspa is something special, and it's definitely technologically the next big thing. It's not even an argument, or
no.
MEXC can say it's a shitcoin, but that's not a person with their own brain. Somebody else put that in their brain.
No.
You know,
I think you've got to be pretty stupid to say that. You mentioned integration. You know, what type of things they request? I mean, with Binance, okay, well, I can understand the process of acquiring the coins, of illiquid coins, right? Because Kaspa will be very illiquid because it's sitting on the wallets. You know, Bitcoin with limited supply obviously hasn't moved. So these coins are very illiquid. So outside of that, what exactly it means to have integration that takes 2 years? I mean, Rust is not new to Kaspa, right? It's not the first. Solana uses Rust as well. You know, so what is why is there is delay? Do they tell you why?
Just like there's different classes of anything. Like you can see my speakers. Even if you don't know about speakers, you could say those are probably pretty good, right? And then there's little speakers in a $60 phone or something, you know, in a $5 toy, there's a speaker. So just like there's speakers and there's speakers, there's developers, and then there's creators of breakthrough software like Mr. Sutton. So some of the people that are in these Telegram private rooms from exchanges and mining pools and software wallets and hardware wallets, some of them are very sharp guys, and most of them are, you know, and they begin to. So Kaspa, at the end of the day, any blockchain or block tag or any L1, it's software. You know, it's a software. When you start the software, it goes and it looks for the internet and it finds other computers that are in the same software, and they start talking in their own little language. So we have many things from Bitcoin and blockchain that are similar. Like we have addresses, right? We have wallets. So that's normal. But then since we have more than one block at a time, we don't just have one like Bitcoin and then 10 minutes later another block. We have like 6 at a time or 12 at a time. Like, you know, it's different. So to talk to that type of network that Kaspa has, and to extract reliable information like transaction, like did this transaction really happen from this address to that address?
I see.
Like what, you know, we don't have block height. So in Bitcoin, if there's 899,000 blocks that have been made altogether so far since 2009, then you could say the block height is 899,000. We don't have that. We have other stuff, you know, DAA score, blah, blah, blah. Like they had to invent more terms that nobody ever heard of to describe this extra dimension of the network structure, you know. So these people, no matter who they are, no matter how sharp they are or not, they have to learn some new stuff. Right. So Kraken was great. Kraken has really sharp guys. They did a really forward compatible. Kraken was ready for 10 blocks per second at the end of last summer. And they had a really sharp guy, and he paid attention really hard and asked great questions, and they have like a bulletproof implementation.
Yeah.
So
interesting. I was going to say, I'm personally a believer that it's not the technology that's stopping exchanges or the tier one exchanges that haven't listed Kaspa, right? This is my speculation, but I don't think it's the technology or integration. I think it's the risk appetite from them that's perhaps one way or another is blocking them listing Kaspa on exchanges. I don't know exactly what the risk appetite means for them. Is it a liquid coin? I can't acquire enough. I need big inventory of that.
Yeah. I mean, they're pretty ready now. It takes a good to get a real grip on it. No way you're getting out of it with less than 3 or 4 weeks. And if you want to do it solid, it's going to be months. But yeah. But anyway, their people are decent, and they're paying attention and asking more questions, and they start the software on their own server. They download it from our repository on GitHub. They start it on a server. They begin to generate addresses. So the end goal is they want to have a perfectly running node or more, multiple redundant diverse nodes, so they can ask, for transactions to their own node. And then they want to have generate addresses for all the user wallets. And then when the user wants to send them to somewhere else, they want to be able to quickly affect a transaction, stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. I guess that's definitely true on the integration side. But coming back to, again, Binance, right? I mean, I think it's totally understandable because they did go through with the perpetual trading, right? The futures are trading, Kaspa futures on Binance. US is not allowed, so I don't think that would happen on Coinbase. But Binance,
no, we have. I think on Coinbase we have futures now.
Oh, okay, right. I wasn't aware of that. Cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So it's an easy way. It lets people bet on the price of Kaspa without actually doing the integration and support. Yeah. So
which means they don't have to worry about the liquidity of the currency, right? They can't.
Sure. And they don't have risk on the security of it. They don't have to watch people's add another coin that they have to protect, They don't have physical Kaspa on their servers. I would imagine we'll be doing good sooner or later. I think the tech just has to make it. And we have more entities that are, interested in it behind the scenes. I always say the tip of the iceberg thing, for every one person you hear or any one company like, Michael Saylor that tells you they're doing the Bitcoin thing, there's 10 underneath the surface that are also doing the same thing that aren't going to talk about it yet. So I think there's got to be a few big players that, if I could find it, a guy coming to his office, at 6 a.m, if I could find Kaspa when it was 2 weeks old, Fidelity Digital Investments, all the VCs and BlackRock, they have to have people that actually went to school for looking for stuff and that have been doing it for longer than me. And, so to think that they don't know about Kaspa would be sort of ridiculous by this point in time, especially since Marathon started mining us, over a year ago. Those guys get a bad rap too. Those are my boys. I love Marathon,
Awesome.
The two real good guys I know from there that have become, I would say friends. We still have a room on Telegram. We tell jokes. I go to dinner with them. I was in Vegas last month. I went to dinner with Adam again. Adam Swick, the head of growth. He's the guy who got Kaspa on there. But to have the biggest Bitcoin miner in the world mining, they started in 2010. They started mining Bitcoin a year before I did. And they only mined Bitcoin. They never did Monero, Ethereum, Litecoin, nothing else. And then they started mining Kaspa last year. Yeah. So if anything should tell you that there's at least something a little special about Kaspa, it would be somebody like that,
Just on the listing, just one perhaps last one, and I want to move on to stablecoins after that. And your predictions on some things, but just on the listings itself, there were a lot of rumors post-Crescendo, 5th of May, when the Crescendo vote came out. A lot of rumors that, hey, Binance is there, Binance will list because of going back to the integration part. Sure. Binance will list post-Crescendo. So far, we are perhaps a month and a half in. were those rumors actually true? Because I don't know where the rumors come from, right? So I thought, well, I've got you here. You can clarify if those rumors had any substantiation behind them.
Okay, so I can tell you facts that we know. So facts, I'm in the integration room, and facts, they never mention anything in there about when, or like we're thinking about it, or we need, if you can give us this and this, or provide a market maker, then we'll turn on trading on this day or in the next 6 weeks or something. They never said a peep about it. That's a fact. Then, but they continue to ask questions about how to make it run like a top. So there's I mean, I don't think they're doing it for fun. You know, I have no idea, but I would just be hopeful that they have their own plan. They're a business and they're not in the favor business. Okay. No. But they have a plan. You know, I would imagine when it's convenient for them and it makes the most business sense, they probably will turn on spot trading. Yeah. Now this is another fact. There was about a series of 4 tweets in about 36 hours, 36 or 48 hours in 1 or 2 days. CZ himself plus Binance on Twitter. Binance posted 3 real hints about Kaspa, it seemed like. Yeah. And then, you know, one was like, what is the trilemma?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Then there was one like, there was one where it even had the hat, like right. Michael Sutton is Orthodox Jewish, and he has the hat, you know. And there was a picture with him with the hat on from Australia last November, and then all of a sudden there's like this silhouette with the exact same hat. It wasn't a cowboy hat; it was the Sutton hat, you know. Right. So they seem to be poking, you know, to do a little experiment and see what kind of likes or reaction they got to test how big the community was or something. Maybe they're doing their own research to see, is it really, like, if we're not getting a pile of coins out of these people, is it really this big of a deal? Should we maybe turn on trading this year sometime? Like, I don't know. They don't tell me anything, but we've been in contact with them for almost 2 years now. Yeah. So that one we have.
So it's good to get the facts out and some speculation also, which we may not be true. And when was the last time you guys contacted? Like, is it the regular exchange of messages, or is it more, you know, once a month type? Someone just around?
Yeah, Binance has been hammering us with tech questions for the last 6 weeks, probably. Okay. This morning they were going at it last night. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So there is something behind the scenes happening.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been going on for 1.5 years. I don't get excited anymore because it's been going on for 18 months. Yeah. I mean, 2 Christmases ago, I thought they were going to turn it on. And 2 Christmases ago, I thought spot trading was going to be turned on. But anyway, I mean, they didn't abandon us. It's not dead. It's not a dead room. Somebody's telling the guys who are asking the questions to make it work for someday or for something. I have no idea. Yeah. Now, Coinbase, we mentioned Coinbase. I can tell you about Coinbase real quick. They're a very strange, they're a funny, very, very silent, like the CIA of crypto. They really don't tell you anything. So last year, I think at the end of last year, that KII, Kaspa Industrial, wrote like an open letter telling them like, hey, can we talk to somebody or something? And then their attorney answered, and he got them in touch with me. I met a nice lady who I had a Zoom with on the same screen right here, and that was last year. She was really nice. She told me they know of Kaspa, and she's pushing for it, but there's no real fast track to it. So like, when they say the listings are free, it's free if they list it when they think it's a great idea. You know, so hopefully they think it's a great idea someday. Beyond that, unfortunately, that nicely left like 2 or 3 weeks, so she's not even there anymore. She introduced me to a new guy, and the new guy ignores me, so I'm a little stuck with them at the moment. So if anybody's watching who's neighbors with Brian Armstrong, then invite him over for some champagne or some vodka. Yeah. When he gets bombed, take him to the jacuzzi and then tell him, Kaspa, just turn on trading. It'll be great. You know.
You think it's also to do with the volume itself? Because I know we talked about the money part. They obviously are driven by listing fees that they charge, but also the volume, right? That's a big key. And the best way to look at it, right, is the Trump and Melania coin. Soon as they came out, right? In January this year, they were all on Binance, Coinbase, even Melania, which is not official coin, right? It was, I think, Mana coin. They were both trading on these things. And it was, for me at least, it's because they were just had so much volume at that time. And they couldn't miss out on, getting the
volume. No, it's almost like a chicken and the egg thing.
It's true.
How are you going to get volume if you're not on Coinbase and Binance, right? Or whatever, or Binance. So I would imagine, just like, Putin and, Xi Jinping, I'm saying it wrong.
Xi Jinping, yeah. Xi Jinping, yeah.
Yeah. Xi Jinping, just like Trump and the White House and those guys all have the hotline. There's got to be some like, the high-end golf course hotline from CZ to like Trump, Trump's son. Yeah, we're coming out with a thing. It's my dad's token. Yeah, let's just get it going. How many do you want? Send me your ETH address. Bling, there you go. Right. Here's 15% of supply. Let's just turn it on. We'll make a killing. It'll be great. I'll see you in the Cayman Islands next month. Bye.
That's how deals are done, right? That's how deals are actually done.
They really are done. Yeah, but but not Kaspa deals because there's no thin air any to give away. So now let me just segue. Let me just add this little part in here because a lot of people don't know this. So when you have like one of these super successful corporate coins or projects, tokens, whatever, like say Solana or Say or Sui, these things, that's a corporation. So in this machine, there's a corporation that's constructed for the purpose of making money. And they think, how can we make money? Should we start a weed company? Well, that's kind of played out. Wait, this crypto thing's hot. Let's make a cryptocurrency. Okay, let's make a corporation for cryptocurrency. We need to hire some developers. We need marketing guys. We need a logo. We need a bank account. We need investors. Let's make a pitch deck. And they get all this money, and then they hire people, and they make the story of why it's the best thing in the world. So, and then when they start the L1, they do a pre-mine or a foundation wallet or something. Somehow they have a huge pile of the coins in existence, right? So they have this floor in the building of the corporation is full of free tokens for them. So Kaspa doesn't have that because it was very similar, following the playbook of Bitcoin fair launch to a T. So we don't have any free tokens for anybody, no free coins. However, so the first 2.5 years were very rough. We had to crowdfund it. I paid for some things myself without crowdfunding when I didn't think it would be appropriate. I did the market making out of my own pile of coins for the years. Yeah, I paid for the market making and the liquidity. So anyway, so I took one for the team. So but a year ago, KEF came out. So these guys are getting a bad rap from a few small voices on Twitter talking about how they're the Chinese cabal and they're dumping and all this. It's the most ridiculous thing I've heard. So KEF is a for-profit organization, but it's funded by Ice River. So Ice River is the largest Kaspa ASIC mining manufacturer. So they make tons of mining machines and they're profitable. They're going public soon. So that's super cool. So it's a big entity has a very big interest in Kaspa being like a relevant, like flourishing ecosystem crypto. So they said, like, let's take some of the money from, from the machines that we've sold and put it into a foundation that can pay for things that helps Kaspa do good, that it can't pay for it by itself. So what happened since a year ago, since they came around, and I become very, very good friends with Juni, who's the executive VP. He stayed at my house a month ago, and we went to Vegas. We went to New York to talk to Circle, USDC. Anyway, so now this is cool because just like there's the structure or the building, the picture of the corporate coins, and they have a big bank account. Now Kaspa, even though it did the fair launch and itself, it doesn't have the money to pay for things. KEF is right there next to us paying for things that are expensive. So they get a bad rap, but anybody who, I get it when you're like 20 and the price is going down, you're looking at, or 40 or 80. I mean, I know 90-year-olds, my dad points the finger, hey, and he's in a month. But anyway, it's easy to point the finger when the price is going down, and then when it's green, and then everyone's best friends, So, but pointing the finger at Kef is not something that's sensible. It's just, it doesn't make any sense.
No, I think it's such an important point, and I think Juni is great. I think it's good to get the straight answers as he does, on things. Of course, no one is perfect, especially when you come out to the limelight, right? You just have you didn't tick that box, you didn't tick that box. We totally understandable if you're an adult in the room. And again, thanks for mentioning that about KEF and how the operation works and there's strategic thinking behind why they exist. So that's very cool. Just moving forward, I guess the hint you gave us is the circle discussion with Juni, with KEF. So what again, there was a lot of hype maybe a month ago that circle is coming to Kaspa, and we were sitting there, we're like, well, stable coins are going to come to Kaspa. It's not it's given that they will come, right? So what can you share with us around the discussion you had with the Circle team?
Sure. So they were super cool guys. They were very excited. We met them in Manhattan, which is where I was born. I hadn't been back in a long time, but yeah, it was good to be back in the city. And there's I've been to a lot of cities this year on the behalf of Kaspa, but most of them were about business: Dubai, Hong Kong, right. Singapore, but New York's got a real businessy feel to it. But these guys were excited because they have their IPO coming out, and they were really keen to hear about Kaspa. So, to me, I just picture, imagine if you have something imagine Bezos has Amazon and he has all these boxes that have to all go somewhere, and you hear, okay, FedEx takes 2 days and UPS takes 3 days and USPS, even my own vans take 8 hours. And then somebody walks in and tells you, we take 100 milliseconds and it costs 1/10,000th of a penny to deliver to any in the world a stable coin on Kaspa. That they were like, oh, that's kind of cool, Cool. So they thought it was, So they like the concept. They like that it's censorship resistant, meaning it's not proof of stake, and we don't have outages, So when people these contrived systems that are made up by really sharp guys, but they're rewriting things from scratch, they're inventing the wheel as they go along to make very expensive servers talk to each other around the world as fast as possible. Then they break sometimes. Ours is generalization of Nakamoto consensus. It's proof of work. It's basically a tried and true Bitcoin-ish thing that's been already running like a top since 2009. Just we started ours a lot faster, and we started it in 2021. So anyway, when they hear all that, they think it's cool. And then, there's 2 stages to stable coins. So in the beginning, you start off as bridged stable coins.
Right. I see.
So that means somebody has to spend money buying it on Ethereum, and that would be a place where KEF comes in, and nobody else is going to be able to do that because it's tens of millions of dollars. You have to buy tens of millions of dollars worth of USDC on ETH. Then you have to lock it up and make sure it's really, really tight and safe. Then you have to issue them on Kaspa, on an EVM, the smart contract platform of Kasplex, probably. And not only do you have to do that, but Circle or whoever, if you're talking to Tether, which we've spoken to them as well, they're gonna be inspecting and doing due diligence from their side into your network to make sure that their the name of their thing is not tarnished. They don't want it to, vanish or get hacked or duplicated or whatever. It's very tight. They want it to be tight, So so that's that. That's stage 1, and then stage 2 is native, but things have to go really well for native issuance. But it's nowhere out of the realm of possibility.
Right now, we don't really have a use case for it until we have all these DEXs are ready to go on layer 2s.
Sure.
Right. Even if the natively they come on the blockchain layer 1, what are you going to do? Right. That's how I think about it. I'm sure people can convert at the time of price going down into stables and keep it safe.
Sure. So also, if it was on EVM, which I think that would be the plan, then like when you're going to move a stable onto an exchange or something, and it tells you you're going to send it to somewhere or receive it, and it tells you what network. So we would want to just be in the list of networks that appear there. And people are used to picking Tron for $1 and waiting, a minute or two, and they could pick Kaspa for, like a little piece of a penny that you could shave off with a razor blade and get it in a couple seconds.
Yeah. So just carrying on with that. So so you don't know where it's sitting right now, like the discussions.
So really, I mean, it's. I was there to appearing on the behalf of Kaspa as a decentralized network, and having the connections to the developers of Kaspa, L1, and anything like that, integration support. But also, Juni was appearing as on behalf of Kef, and Kef would be really doing the business. They'd be inking it and everything. So I'm sure those guys in the background are having their own conversations. I know it's not dead whatsoever. No. There's really the thing that I think is that it's hinges upon is the completion of a functional layer 2, the EVM. So when the Kasplex EVM is working on the main network, and L2's talking to the L1 back and forth, and then you can issue tokens on there, then I think it'll be ready. I think it's more of waiting for that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think once we have layer 2s are operational, because also it increases the demand. It's not just about bringing them over, as I said, like it's about the actual usability of the stables will start to grow as the ecosystem grows outside of just Kaspa and USDC or stables. Right now, we can actually have a volume going through these tables once we have the dApps.
True. Yeah.
Cool. So look, Wolfie, I've already taken an hour of your time, so I appreciate for your time, but I want to perhaps wrap this up with a bombshell that I wanted to ask, and I'm sure community is going to love it. Let me ask you this question. What is, I think we all love Kaspa. That's why we are here. We're discussing, we spend time. What is your price prediction? I mean, people love price, and, so far in 30, 40 episodes we have done, we don't talk about price. What is your price prediction of Kaspa by 2030?
2030. Okay.
2030.
So I'm going to tell you real quick. This is the bonus round of Wolfie interview. Okay. Rule number 1 of crypto. Nobody has a crystal ball. And that means nobody.
Yeah.
Trump doesn't. Saylor doesn't. Nobody has one, right? So, so nobody knows. I mean, it could like be this great technology, and the world doesn't really catch on, and it's, whatever, 20 cents, 50 cents, and then the next bull run, 12 cents, and then 3 cents, and then a penny. And it's this cool thing, and there's a bunch of geeks that still have it and talk about it. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I would imagine if Bitcoin's going to $1 million or a few $1 million, and Kaspa gets some, even like a reasonable tiny slice of the traction of what's actually used on crypto. Like nowadays, it's amazing because with the new president, which lots of people hate him, which is okay. They don't have to like him. But the neat thing for anybody who likes crypto is that the war on crypto in America, the wealthiest country in the world, ended at the beginning of the year. And not only did they stop trying to stamp it out, they're trying to help it turn into something cool and actually finally get used. And Kaspa is one that you can actually use. It was made to use in the blink of an eye. So if we can get, 1 or 2% of the people that actually use crypto for anything to use Kaspa in the next several years, which I don't see why they wouldn't, then I think it could be, at least a couple dollars, $2, $5, like who knows, Right. In the dollars, it's not a crazy number whatsoever to think in a few dollars. XRP based on nothing land has hit $4 pretty much. Cardano based on nothing has hit $3.5, $4. So with more coins, twice as many coins, 3 times more coins than Kaspa. So for Kaspa to never hit $3 or $4, that would just mean we're not a corporation and we didn't pay for marketing. No, just kidding. No, I think there's quite a reasonable chance for the technology and the adoption to actually have useful stuff happening. Yep. Like we have that chat message system. Did you see the messaging thing? That's neat. I mean, that's a cool thing.
Oh, there's so
Yeah.
much happening. There's so much happening. But look, it was a fun speculation from your part, and it was a fun thing to ask. I think I will start to ask more people, the builders, the developers that we talk to, just to just create some fun out of it and some speculation, which is always good. But look, Wolfie, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much again for coming to the show.
Sure, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on. Have a great summer over there. And yeah, let's hope that this downtrend for the whole market, pretty much for the whole year so far, like is done with. And then we start going like good and fun.